uh, hmm. It's Tempus sort of leans down and goes, it says, heard interesting talks, a few things. Heard something about an organ. Um, some building nearby has an organ jutting out of the ceiling. Dwarf's king organ. You heard anything about that?
Ah, yes, Yeah, he starts chuckling. Now that is a rather curious spectacle. Have you been to see it before?
I have heard things, and I admit it sparked up such an interesting fancy. If I didn't get an invite, that's exactly where I'd be.
He will explain to you the following text. And this will be information provided from his opinion, expending your relationship with him, which will be the Dwarf King 6. But he does have connections to the Prince of Shadow as well, which you can utilize. Dwarf engineers, as noted in like the rumor blurb, they have constructed a towering musical machine, the top of which sticks up through the roof of a forbidding dwarven building, which is not that far from the Tower of the Blue. It's in like the Rubble City, which comprises the eastern half of Dragon Hall. And they do claim that the Dwarf King has no involvement or interest with the machine, and he's not entirely sure whether that's true or not. But it's become known as the King's Organ, primarily just due to the perversity and spite of naming it the King's Organ, even though the engineers said that it doesn't have anything at all to do with the Dwarf King. A crew of gnomes operates the construction using levers, pedals, cranks, and keyboards to generate an orchestra's worth of music. The machine cranks out music for a few hours per day, 5 minutes to an hour at a time. He will actually provide one of the times that he goes to listen to it, which is Earth Day at noon, and they play for an entire hour. He is not familiar with the other times, it's sort of random, and if he is, he won't give you anything else. Fans of the otherworldly music, and it sounds surreal and beautiful, and not at all like music does. They've taken the camping out near the building. Even in these treacherous conditions, it's sort of like how you can get addicted to the surreal quality of the music that the dwarves built and that the gnomes play. And some fans who also know the schedule, like how Durgar here knows one of the times, they will gather preemptively near the building so that it can play its music.
Okay, that's a fair chunk of information. I like it. And just to focus a bit more on the surreal, it's the case of just in a city of horror that it just seems to bring pleasure and enjoyment. So there's a time of utter peace, or
the music they play does vary. They can play somber pieces. They can also play jovial ones. But what is so iconic about the music is that there's no other device, there's no other music machine, and so all the music that it plays, the notes are alien, and they strike chords within people who listen to them that have not been touched by music.
Interesting. And they don't seem to make any profit from it. They just do it of their own free will. That every so often and every chunk, as you're saying, on Earth Day, they decide to play for an hour. There's no donation chamber. There's no place to leave tributes.
Durgar shrugs. As far as I'm aware, the engineers just decided that they wanted to build it there. I presume they have the approval of the Tower of the Blue. Certainly, no, it hasn't been taken down, and it's been standing for over a year.
Fascinating. I heard a few things. I genuinely thought it was a rumor. I didn't imagine it would expand into that. That's a fascinating piece of advice. You know what?
The music really is something to listen to, Tempus.
The next Earth Day, I will tag along.
Let's see, and Earth Day is one of the days of the week. If you look at the calendar on the world map, it's currently God's Day, and Earth days not too far from now. They have those every week, like all the other days of the week.
That's just convenient. It's a weekly occurrence. It's wonderful.
Yes, noon on each Earth day for an hour at a time. And Durgar's eyes will actually, like, his face grows somber for a few seconds, and like his eyes will water up a bit as he attempts to express the quality of the music. And he just sort of sputters out, not having the words.
Tempus, yeah. You know, the next Earth Day I will come along, right? Sounds too good to miss. It's a fascinating idea. Yes, definitely will attend that. And I get the feeling something's happened.
Maybe.
Ah, right, okay. Just wanted to make sure because I heard it. I'm like, whoa. Tempus will sort of lean back. He'll actually tap Durgar for a drink, and actually, before even getting a reply, take off to the open bar to go and get the dwarf a very, very, very large stout.
Okay. That can be done, because as it turns out, it's open bar.
Yes!
and you can encounter the incredibly dapper and well-groomed and manicured individual manning the bar with all manners of, like, knowledge about crazy drink concoctions.
And Tempus will swing by Leon and just go, hello, Leon. Can I get a dwarven stout? Quite a tough one. Big guy. I'm sure you understand. It needs a strong one, as all dwarves do. Also, do you have Forgeborn Delight?
He'll, like, blink at you and say, which Forgeborn Delight? From the above-ground dwarves of the 9th Age, or from the underground dwarves of the 13th Age?
Oh, the underground dwarves, but the subsected on the Forgeborn range that they actually use to lubricate the joints. Do you know it?
Do you want the hot spice or the mild spice?
Never had the hot spice, please. Treat me.
Yes, very rarely consumed. It seems that dwarves have a rather hot temper when it comes to the Forgeborn. Here you are.
Just suddenly slid in front of him.
Yes.
Like, I didn't even see. What? Tempus didn't even see his hands.
It's sort of like how like a magician works with the amazing sleight of hand tricks. Like Tempus blinks and suddenly like, wait, what? Tempus
immediately becomes a slight bit more defensive around this butler.
Leon sitting at the bar is just a mute. He's already seen this happen to him.
So Tempus will nod to Leon and then go back to Durgar to give the drink. And time for someone else to go.
Right. And as for the library, certainly there's a beautiful fireplace. There is a smaller bar there, though it is not manned by someone. You'll have to handle pouring the drinks yourself, along like the table if you want to eat something while you read, although it's non-messy foods. There's viewing couches if you'd like to walk outside and read on like a second floor like balcony. You certainly can do so, although the warmth doesn't really extend to the outside, no. And there are several bookcases with well organized and documented text. It is reminiscent of being in one of the Horizon libraries for Dwohurim. The quality of the pages having been written by the best of monks, with fine, illustrations, and I forget the exact word in English. In English, as if I'm gonna fucking say it in Spanish, you stupid cunt, Grimith.
Hello?
Not the calligraphy, it doesn't matter. At any rate, yes, the texts are finely kept and maintained. And the music and, like, revelry from downstairs. This room also has some soundproofing associated with it. So there's a few sounds filter into here.
Are there other people here? Or is he the only one?
There are a few other individuals, magi types. There are two wizards off in the corner who are having, like, an argument about the value of summoning elementals versus summoning some other manner of, like, creature. Like, elementals are used as tools by everyone else except for the High Druid. Like, the Archmage uses them as tools, the Elf Queen uses them as tools.
And that's what they are.
Yes, they're tools. At least according to these wizards. And they sort of, like, arguing about whether it's, like, the ethics of summoning.
Well, that sounds thoroughly uninteresting.
It's by, like, these dry, curmudgeonly, like, academic individuals who are, like, the minutiae of, like, the processes. Because elementals are, like, sentient creatures who have feelings. You're like, why don't you just summon, like, badgers or, like, animals instead? But those have feelings, too, so what the hell makes the difference between, like, elementals and, like, badgers?
Yeah. Good points all around. Let's if those are the people that I hear, well then he will think if he's really like that all the time. He hopes not. Then he'll find some books that seem interesting. Basically go through the places, see if there's something he has not found anywhere else. Of course he can't really look through the whole library, but browsing topics related to probably to High Rock really. And to the magic that was going on there before it got smashed to pieces.
Yes. You can certainly find books, or a book in particular, about that, which details how the Shapers would construct and maintain the heavy magical defenses surrounding High Rock to prevent chaotic magical influence from the Iron Sea from damaging the city.
And those are certainly coming down.
Yes, whenever High Rock fell, like, all of the protections just, like, fell along with it, because the Shapers were no longer here to maintain them.
Sure. Are there other people reading, and so what are they reading?
There is a, let's see here, there is a gnome who, of course, is reading, like, magic, discussing, like, the academic thaumaturgical processes of illusionary magic, breaking it down into the minutiae of how you go about the process of constructing a spell.
Alright.
There is one human woman who is glaring at the two, like, summoners as she's, like, reading... Well, that's not very much an academic at all. That sounds almost like a romance novel.
Oh, alright.
Like,
she doesn't seem like she's a wizardy type.
No, not
read.
at all. She's sort of, like, in here to read. Sort of like a noble woman who doesn't really, like, not in the magical sort of aspect, but wanted to go to, like, a reading room. And so here she is, and she probably doesn't belong in this reading room.
Yeah, alright. Sure.
Other than that, there's Thomas and Fargus.
What? They're also in here? Alright, well, suit yourself, guys.
Yep, they followed you.
Yep.
I will be looking at High Rock magical illustrations and possibly trying to find some nice, who knows, probably not so interesting literature about the location of different magical places, or, you know, if there's some person who went to High Rock to see if there were ley lines or whatever, hidden magical realities that might be under the surface. If he cannot find anything particular on that, he will look for things about the magical sort of aura, magical essence of Dragonhall. It does seem like Dragonhall has these magical energies that sort of swirl around and are very weird all the time. And knowing a little bit more about that could be interesting. There's probably someone who's done a lot of work on it. Maybe he's written a book about it.
There is nothing particular that refers to Dragonhall by name. These books that at least Dwohurim is gathering here refer to High Rock, as they were written before the fall of High Rock and the rise of Dragonhall. Of course, High Rock and Dragonhall are in the same location. Yeah. It's just that there's no text, referring to what the Blue and whoever she's doing is influencing. But certainly there is powerful magic swirling around the locale of High Rock, and that's due to the immense chaotic presence of the Iron Sea. In ancient times, when the ritual was cast to calm the Midland Sea, all of the swirling chaos of nature was shunted out of the Midland Sea into the Iron Sea. And so the Iron Sea is a swirling, angry, mass of, it's not even a mass that that Fargus can relate to. Whereas the Midland Sea feels neutered to him if he tried to go out on the Iron Sea. It's just so it's uncontainable, unquenchable rage. And one of the reasons why the defenses at High Rock were built so strong and powerful was to protect against the swirling vortexes of energies that would crash, even, you know, from the Iron Sea to this locale. The walls were magically enchanted to prevent violent storms from breaking them down. Yes, the storms were that violent to risk tearing down fake stone walls.
And yet, the city now is... the city still fell.
The city still fell, just not from storms.
Mm-hmm. It focused on the wrong things. Well, that's at least the kind of quest you look into. Ley lines, magical locations of like the ruins now are just ruins, but maybe there were important things there once. If you're beginning to look, we have thought about searching the ruins for more things. This might tell us where to look, basically.
So there will not be enough time before the first course summoning for within less than a half hour to conduct that kind of research here.
Nothing else, finding the right books. Then maybe he can return to them later. Tonight, when everybody begins to dance or whatever.
All right, make a research skill check, Manaki.
That would be my magical background, I would argue. He certainly has.
I would agree.
Done a lot of research in his time, doing, his education really.
I agree.
And intelligence based.
Yes.
Seems.
Are you remembering to add the +1 you got from your incremental advance?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Alright. Dwohurim thinks he has a lead from several books that could contain information pertaining to this. Not books which are located at Hiram's Hall, naturally, but he thinks he can learn more about this topic if he had time. Maybe he's wrong, but he thinks he has a start. Sure. Thomas, Fargus.
Thomas would probably quickly get bored by research after like 2 minutes. And after identifying the place not as a potential death trap and just as a party, he would probably go to the place that he would think he can at least gain some insight on the situation, which would be the bar, because he would very much know that the bartender always knows, well, far more than everyone else.
All right. Well, Leon's there at the bar. The bar... There's not many people sitting at the main bar. Most of the nobles and other guests are content to walk up, request drinks, and go on to their conversations in other rooms or whatever it is that they do. Really, Leon, 2 other individuals who are being all sorts of grumpy wallflowers and not socializing, and there is that incredibly dapper, vested individual, in his 50s, graying temples, but keeps good care of his body, quickly handling all orders as he goes, blitzing to and fro, and not with any sort of harried pace, but a well-practiced ease and comfort of someone who's been on the other side for a few decades.
Thomas would try to make some small talk, ask how it's going, and if there's always so many people on these parties, and how often are these parties, and wow, you are really good at that, and he'll try to drop some words that only a fellow bartender would know.
The individual who refers to himself as Bertrand will make small talk back with the practiced ease of an individual who has been performing meaningless talk for the past 3-4 decades of his entire life, and deflects and handles you with such a practiced ease and comfort that it's almost offensive.
Well, I mean, Thomas will...
Thomas is familiar enough with a bartender, go, he's handling me real good.
I would be offended if that wasn't so impressive. But he will try to drop some relevant questions, your employer, this, how do you even refer to a dragon without sounding weird?
Well, you say the dragon's name.
Yeah, this Chug, your employer, what's she like? And questions like that.
He shrugs. That is all dragons are, I imagine. Incredibly demanding and needy, but have quite many opportunities for gainful employment, such as myself.
I see. Any hobbies, interests?
Perhaps you have mistaken my place in the household. I maintain a bar.
Of course you do. See, I just want to make the right impression once I go talk to her. To know a bit about her, after all.
The best way for you to make an impression would be to be silent until she asks you something directly, but if you're feeling adventuresome, you could not be silent. But that risks her eating you.
I would like to avoid that. Alright.
So speak only when spoken to, relax, and enjoy yourself, and there won't be any problems. You're clearly not an undesirable, or else you would not be here. Relax, take comfort, have a drink. It's on the house.
Thomas will order some drink with little alcohol in it, but some at least.
The ale he was hoping to obtain for his friend for his wedding from Newport, that's available here.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's too good to pass up on.
There you go.
It was worth a trip through the Death Forest, after all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Fargus just walking around, looking confused, so eating a bit, sort of observing people.
Fargus
But also-
does, yeah, Fargus does attract some attention. Fargus does imagine like eyes that linger on him for a few seconds too long, and murmured whispers whenever he walks out of a room. People here at the party are noticing Fargus. Whether that's in a good way is up to interpretation.
Fargus is looking very confident.
Yes, no one is approaching him and asking him to leave or being hostile towards him. It's all in that polite cloak and dagger sort of way that these upper-class people tend to do.
Yes.
Before they rip you apart without you realizing it.
Fargus is sort of standing in the corner silently, judging them.
They're
Just
judging
scanning
you.
across the room.
And they're not standing in the corner. They're everywhere else in the room.
Yep.
You can always go outside.
I mean, I guess I could.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I'm allowed to. I don't know the rules of this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, there's the entire manor estate. You're just in the manor house. You can go, like, look around, like, the garden. You can play around the hedge maze. There's a hedge maze.
The Fargus will probably not go in the maze, will he? But he will go outside and sort of check on
like a
the
patio.
yeah, check on the plant life. I guess that's not actually frozen that bad.
The plant life is obviously bolstered by magic to prevent it from dying. Perhaps if this dragon or whoever, like maybe the dragon doesn't tend to this, maybe there's like a gardener. Maybe the gardener is like a druid who like ensures the plant life doesn't die. It's not natural for it to be sustained and bolstered like this, but it's certainly prettier.
Mm-hmm.
Like the natural flow of life would be for this stuff to die and then come back, and it's still here, just really frozen.
But but seeing as the weather is also kind of unnatural at the moment, Fargus will approve.
Okay. So yeah, so whoever tends to the plant life obviously has some magical background and familiarity with protecting plants, which is not Fargus's like realm of expertise. Like he handles like battle druid magic and shit, and not this whole like shielding plant life.
No, he hasn't really gotten into that.
Like summon a fire elemental, protect the plants. But in time, that short window does pass before summons are sent all throughout the manor house for guests to join and congregate within the banquet hall for a massive series, the first course of what will be numerous courses of mealings. And there's lots and lots of chairs. One long, like it's really like multiple tables that are like stacked together. It's a larger size. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a massive room. It would be comfortable enough if, say, for whatever reason, a bunch of trolls and, like, ogres and even, like, hill giants, they could eat comfortably in here. It's that massive. Like, the doorways, the archways, so opulent and decadent and, like bedecked with, like, depictions of historical victories of dragons over lesser beings. You know, shit like that. Beautiful tapestries, multiple chandeliers. Something that you all notice, more so in this room, is the second floor of this dining hall does have guards posted. And certainly there are guards posted as well throughout the manor house. It's just more obvious here, ensuring to keep the peace. No weapons drawn, but they are quickly available for the guards to access. And these individuals look much better trained than veteran guardsmen you've seen in entire towns. Perhaps a mercenary company of some kind. Gathered for this sumptuous banquet of, like, you know, fresh lettuce and, like, roasted rabbit's tongue and all other manners of delicacies. If you're into more of a carnivorous thing, you've got options like some beautifully roasted boar or spiced and singed goblin. You know, that's your thing. Or if you're into more of, like, some plant life, there's some beautiful berries and spices, a variety of drinks. I've got some spiced coffee. The primary attraction here, not just the bedecked, ever-fashionable half-elf, but lounging at the head of all of these tables stacked together is, as a matter of fact, a dragon, resting comfortably on a bed of pillows. The dragon is, as it turns out, exactly what it says on the tin. Green shading with those golden eyes flicking ever so seemingly at all of the guests simultaneously. The dragon, as all dragons do, possesses a powerful and imposing aura, and certainly this is a large dragon, bigger than the one you faced, and for an idea of mechanical abilities, I have set her token properties to be off of GM mode and onto basic mode, if for whatever reason you wish to attack this dragon.
Yes, with those improvised weapons. No.
There is a magical presence within her, a forceful intimidation as well, that makes the gathered nobles, they'll talk and joke and ridicule each other, but no one dares to look at the head of the banquet with an unkind eye. Not for the matron of the house, who does not communicate much. It appears to be her husband who organizes and calls out the various dishes of mutton and meat pies and all manners of desserts and delicacies, of an iced cream type of thing, sugary delights, if you're into sour sorts of things. It's a long, constant stream of food lasting a few hours.
Oh, we eat.
And you are not limited, sort of like the open bar, as you have been invited to this feast. You can try out all manners of foods. It is sort of up to you to describe what it is that your character might partake in. If you wish to, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's just that you have such a massive feast here, and no one's going to challenge your position, part because you're not really known, you don't care enough. As for conversations that may or may not be interesting, it depends on whether you're into noble small talk. If you're into the small talk of nobility and the upper class, then you probably do well here.
Tempus will definitely be engaging in the small talk and talking about the intricacies and how much of a nuisance the peasantry is, and just how they really should try harder.
You know, with those clothes, you look as if you're not belonging to the peasantry, and those people would agree, and that's why they moved to Drakenhall, where the blue is around to keep tight control of everything. She makes a great Imperial governor.
And they all cheer and raise cups to the health of the blue and the downfall of the Empire's peasantry.
Well, you know, the premier greeting for citizens of Drakenhall is all hail the might and wisdom of the blue. That's how people who don't want to die greet each other.
Then their eyes sort of flicker out around, looking for if everyone heard that they said it.
Yes, all hail the might and wisdom of the blue is a standard greeting in the City of Monsters.
As well as they're looking around for people that didn't say it because they could be traitors.
Yes, yes.
I could sell them out then.
As you think on it, that effect has actually existed the entire time you've been in Drakenhall.
Tempus will definitely, if that is chime, Tempus will say, but of course, to the blue.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't come up at the table. So it turns out there's another dragon sitting at the head of the table.
But of course, to the green.
I mean, this green. How do you?
Well, Tempus just made this awkward.
To the elf.
To the Iron Sea.